Book clubs, spice, and weird rereads. July has been an interesting reading month. Hey everyone, Fina here from Fina Reads. Welcome and welcome back to my channel today with my July reading wrap up. As always, I will start with my reading stats, then we will dive into the shelf control report, and I'm scared. I'll show you then what I purchased in the month of July, and then we talk about all the books that I read last month. That's a lot of stuff, so let's get started. Okay, reading stats. This month has been better. I'm coming back. I don't know. It could also be because I joined Jake's and Stacy's The Battle of the Bands readathon, which always motivates me to read a bit more because I want to, provide points for the team. I have to say though, given that it was a readathon month, I still had a lot of DNFs. So in the month of July, I read 7 books in total. 2 of those were DNFs. And one of the books was a reread. I read a total of 2,347 pages. 2 books I loved, 2 books I liked, and 1 was a meh. And we're going to talk about that one because that was kind of a sad meh. I read 3 books on my Kindle, 3 on my library, and 1 in physical format. And then 4 of the books were fantasy. 1 was a sci-fi, 1 a horror, 1 a mystery. So a really cool, diverse reading month, genre-wise at least. And then I started 3 series and I continued 1. Let's move right into the next section, the shelf control report, the section where I'll take a very close look at all the unread books that I own, because this year, as you know, I'm making sure that this stack is not growing. Well, let's see if July worked out or not. I finished June with 1,135 books, which is more than what we started the year with by 2. Then in July, I got 8 books, 1 of which I've read before. Then I removed 4 books out of my library and I read 1 unread book in my library, which means, mathy, I ended up in 1,141 books. We're going in the wrong direction. But let's see what I added to my library this month. The first 2 are late birthday presents. Thank you, Twainy, for sending me those. I'm always excited when I get surprise book mail. 1 book, The Good Samaritan by John Mars, is a book that I've read already, but it is a good one, so I'm excited to be adding that to my library. And the other one is called Cruelty Free by Carolyn Glenn, which is, I think, a horror. I'm not 100% sure. Psychological thriller. The premise sounds very cool. I'm very excited to read this very, very soon. It gives me Mona Award, Rouge, and Zoe Stage vibes, kind of. Push by Ashley Audrain. Like, that's the vibes I'm getting from this one, and I'm super excited to give this a try. Next one is a pick from my local little free library, Local Woman Missing by Mary Kubica. I've seen this around on like Bookstagram and whatnot, and I believe it is a bigger thriller, mystery thriller, right? I have no idea what it is about, but it looks fantastic. So I grabbed it and I got rid of a couple books at the same time. So the free library got some exchange for this one. The next 2 books are from a recent Barnes & Noble run. I still have a Barnes & Noble gift card that has been burning a hole in my pocket. So I had the urge to use it. It was, screaming at me, and it got very impatient that it wasn't being used. So I got myself The Tainted Cup by Robert Jackson Bennett. That is part of the whole Hugo Awards thing that I'm doing. If you have no clue what I'm talking about, go check down in the description for my video about the Hugo Awards for this year. And that was one of the books that a lot of people voted for. So, I got myself a copy. And the other one is Louise Penny Still Life. That is the first book in, I don't know, is it 2019, 17? I don't know. It's a long series at this point. Thriller. And I've heard a lot of good things, in particular about the last book that came out earlier this year. Something with wolf, leopard, I don't know. There's an animal on the cover. And I've heard a lot of good things about this series, so I wanted to give it a try, and I got myself book 1. And then the next set of books, it's technically 3 books, but, one of them I already had a different copy of, so I'm not counting it to new books added to the library because it's the same book, just in the new edition. Anyway, Benjamin Avron, the Echoes of Ilarion series is finally finished, so I got myself the whole set with the new covers and everything. Favorite author. The moment it was out, I had to buy them all. Like, there was just no choice choice with not buying them because I want them on my shelf. I read Venomborn already. Now I can finish this series and binge the rest, and I hope that actually happens soon. And the last book that I got was FantasticLand by Mike Bockoven, and I will talk about this book in a little bit as well because I actually read it right this month. So yeah, stay tuned for later in the video for this one. All right, really quick and dirty haul. By the way, is this something you're interested in? Do you want me to talk more about the books that I'm hauling every month, or is like the short section as part of my wrap-up more than enough for you? Let me know down in the comments because I'm never sure if a standalone haul video makes sense and if people are actually interested in that, or if like a short, quick, here are quickly the books that I got, if that is enough. And with that, let's jump in the books that I actually read this month. Well, let's start with the DNFs. So the books that I partially read this month. And the first one, that was a stinker. I read Bloodsinger by Juliet Cross, which is book 2 in her series. I read Firebird last month, the month before, June, I don't know. June, yeah, because I got it in June. It was a birthday present to myself. Anyway, I loved Firebird. I loved the premise. The writing was fun. The characters were fun. You know, it's not a Pulitzer Prize winning type of book, but it was very engaging. It got me out a bit of a reading slump, and I loved the Roman Empire situation. I loved like that she used a lot of historical elements from the Roman Empire. I loved the dragon shapeshifters, and in general, like the Romans, how it was written was a lot of fun. So I picked up Bloodsinger from my library because I didn't want to buy it, because they only had the hardcover, but I got the paperback of Firebird, so I would have waited for the paperback of Bloodsinger, but I wanted to read it immediately. Anyway, long story short, I read it and it was horrible. I don't know what happened, but that was a completely 180. The characters were super annoying. It was the same thing was said over and over and over again, and I just couldn't. I was so annoyed at the decisions they made, at the writing, at the naivete of the characters, at just the whole situation was just not good. So I read like 100 and some pages, closed it, and was like, you know what? I don't need to force myself. Save some money. Don't need to buy book 2. I will keep book 1 though. That was a lot of fun. And the next DNF, oh, that was a bad one. I read The Everlasting by Alex E. Harrow. Again, a book that I read because of the whole Hugo situation. This was not the most voted book, but while I was filming the video, I was reading through what the book is about, and I actually got really intrigued by the premise, even though initially I said, oh, this doesn't look like a book that would be for me. Well, it turns out I was right. It's not a book for me. So this is a mix of the Arthurian legend and Outlander, but gender swapped. So in Outlander, you have the woman going back in time and then falling in love with a man, right? Here, it's the other way around. And then the woman he is falling in love with, Una Everlasting, is kind of part of a round table, like Arthurian round table like situation. Like, it's very, very similar. It is a literary fantasy, and that's what I was thinking I wouldn't vibe with, and that what actually happened. Like, I didn't vibe with the literary aspect of it, and I got bored really quickly. I can't explain too much without going into spoilers, but let's say there are 5 parts in the book, and in the middle of part 2 is when I DNF'd it. What I found interesting about it though, so I believe it's written in second person is what it's called, what it's written in. So it's Owen, the male main character, talking to Una, and he is telling his story, like what he's going through, as if he is retelling what happened to her, which is kind of interesting. It was very confusing at the beginning, but then the more I read it, the more I actually enjoyed that part. It was really more the story, and it was very mundane, and then I realized there's a lot of repetition on purpose, but I didn't want that repetition anymore. Like, I read it once and was like, okay, I got it. And then I read a couple of reviews to see like, where's the story going? And the more I read about it, the less interested I was in it. Bummer. The premise sounded really, really cool, but that whole literary aspect of it really didn't work for me. So let's jump into the books that I actually finished and completely read in July. One book that I started in June and then finished in July was our June Backlist Book Club pick, Jaran or Jaran by Kate Elliott. I still don't know how to pronounce this book properly. This is book 1 in a quartet. It's a more anthropological story, and I found that incredibly fascinating. So we're following our main character who strands it's technically sci-fi. So she is stranded on a planet, which it's a planet that she actually wanted to supposed to be, but she's kind of on the other end of the planet and is being picked up by a local tribe that lives there. If you think the Pocahontas story, where, you know, the big settler is coming into the land of the Native Americans, it has a little bit that aspect. So it's that big person that is technologically advanced coming into a land where the people, you know, ride around on horses, living in tents, that kind of stuff. And the story has a lot of these anthropological aspects because you watch her learn the language, you watch her experience their culture and talk about like how different it is to her own culture and what she's struggling with and what she actually really likes as part of their culture. And then you see her integrating herself into the tribe more and more and adjusting to that cultural differences. And it is so well written. I found that so incredible. So she was becoming part of the tribe, right? And then the tribe has like their other aliens that requested the help of the tribe to find certain religious sites, and they're actually going onto a journey to all those different religious sites so these aliens can look at them. They look like normal people, so the tribe actually doesn't know that those are aliens. Our female main character does, though. And by the way, I'm keep saying female main character because I completely forgot all the names already. I apologize. I'm horrible with that. I'm fully aware of that. Anyway, and she kind of forces her way into that group that is going on that journey, even though the main guy who's leading this doesn't want her initially. So she learns hunting, she learns writing, she learns what is up with these aliens and those religious sites, and it's super cool. I definitely want to continue with that series and want to see where this is going and what, like, in this case, what the big picture is, because I have no idea where this story is going at this point. All right, I promised you I'd tell you more about FantasticLand by Mike Bockoven. So that was the July pick for the Thrill Chill Kill book club pick over on the Bookish Drummer Discord. I haven't read any of them this year so far, and for whatever reason, I decided to look what is going on in July, and then the book sounded interesting, and then it was on sale, so I got myself a copy and read it. I should have skipped it. This is one of the books that will also wander out of my library now again, because I don't think I will ever read it again. So this is about an amusement park, FantasticLand, in Florida. And there's a big storm coming, so everything gets evacuated, but they have kind of a safety protocol where a certain number of employees stays behind to protect the merchandise. The problem is that they're being cut off for, I believe, nearly a month. And when the first people are going into the FantasticLand amusement park, they're seeing dead bodies strung up and like chaos everywhere and people with bows running around and like a complete mess. And this book is set after all of this happened, and we are interviewing, or the author is interviewing, all the different people that were stuck in the amusement park, and we figure out through these interviews what is happening. Sounds like a fantastic premise. The problem is it gets very repetitive and very boring after some time. Like, I would have loved to dig much deeper into the heads of all these peoples and figure out, okay, why did they do these things that they were doing? Why did they do all these horrendous things? And we do not get any of that. We see what they are doing, but we don't really get a why at the end of the day. And that was very disappointing. And at the end, again, because it gets so repetitive, because it's all different people, like it's not the same 5 people and the interview goes back and forth. So you get a lot of the beginnings over and over and over again. Like, he's maneuvering that in a way where it's not starting at day 1 every single time, but there is a lot of repetition throughout because of that. You know, it was fun. I read it relatively quickly. It's definitely a very fast-paced, very kind of, you don't want to look away from that car crash type of book. But at the end, it was kind of like, okay, I read it, but the other thing was, so Florida is big with Universal and Disney and whatnot. They kept saying, we are different than Disney, but then every little thing was like exactly like Disney. Every little like subsection in the park was exactly like Disneyland. And I'm like, where are you not like Disney? You're exactly the same, just a different name. But that as a side note. So next book was a total mood read because Mr. Josephine and I decided to watch the Thursday Murder Club on whatever, Netflix, wherever it's running right now. Originally, I was never really interested in reading the book, but the movie sounded fun. We were in the mood for some cozy, mystery type of thing. And then the movie ended up being so good that I was like, I want to read the book. And then I went to my library. They had a skip the line loan. So I had 7 days to quickly read it. And I had fun. I wish I wouldn't have watched the movie before I read the book. Because I knew where this was going, right? I knew the ending already, which took a little bit fun away from the book, but it was actually a lot of fun, and I might pick up other books in the series. So in case you don't know, the Thursday Murder Club is about a group of 4. They're all living in a retirement home in Britain somewhere, and it's a really big one, like a big property, and I guess they are all rich. It's never actually put on page like that, but I guess they are all rich because it's a really fancy retirement home. And every Thursday, they're meeting to discuss old cold cases because they're getting these from through one of the people's friends, essentially, and they're talking through, okay, who could have been the murderer, and they're reading the police files and have kind of a detective club in that sense. But then a real murder happens at the retirement home, and the group is working together with the police to figure out what happened, who was the murderer, all that kind of stuff. And it's it's cozy mystery. It's a lot of fun, but it actually has a lot of depth to it as well. There are a lot of twists and turns in it. It's not very straightforward. On the contrary, I actually was very surprised who the murder was. Next up was the backlist book club pick for July, which was The Priestess of White by Trudy Caravan. And that was a reread for me. And oh man, I'm so disappointed because Trudy Caravan was an all-time favorite author for me for the longest time. I remember reading her Black Magicians, the 2 trilogies with Sonea and then the Black Magicians trilogy, but I also read the Age of 5 trilogy as well. So I read all 9 books that were out back then. I pretty much binged them. That's how much I loved them. And I just have this memory of this being a super fun, very unique book and a fantastic fantasy story with great writing and so on. I ended up being really bored, kind of. So Priestess of White, first of all, is about Oriah, who grew up in a village far away from civilization, essentially, till one day a priest finds her and asks her to sign up for the priesthood, and support the gods and all that fun stuff. And then we fast forward a little bit and see her being named as one of the 5. There are 5 people who represent the gods on Earth, and they're picked by the gods. And Oriah, after just a short stint of going through the ranks in the priest, thingy-majig, becomes a white. She's being picked as the 5th and the last white. And one of the big things that the white are doing right now is they are trying to unite all the different countries into one, peaceful whatever, the typical fantasy stuff. Now, Oriah is going out to some of the other races to talk with them and have these conversations. And what I remember loving, and one thing that I'm still very impressed by, is that Trudy Caravan built a truly unique world. There's some really unique races in there where she talked about the culture of those races and how they're living, how they're, working together, living together, all that fun stuff. The problem was it's, I believe, more a beginner fantasy because it was very straightforward. There were not a whole lot of things where oh, I didn't see that coming. It was all very predictable. The conversations were not very exciting. I was actually hoping that we get a lot deeper in some of these negotiations and issues that we were seeing with the negotiations, but things resolved and then we're done. And there was not a whole lot of depth to that. And I was really sad because I remembered it being a fantastic book and I remembered really loving it. And then it ended up being something meh. And I'm so sad about that. I don't know. Did you ever have that? Did you ever, where you remember the book fondly and then all of a sudden you reread it and you're like, ugh, this is not good? Did you ever have that situation? I'm really curious. And then the last book, because I had 3 more days left in the month of July and I wanted to get 1 more book in for the readathon to get a couple more points for our team. So I picked a really quick romance and I picked Notting Autumn by Hollis, which is her recently released entry in her werewolf series. I think it's also a quartet. I read Shifter's Faded Summer, which is book 1 technically. I will talk about that in a second. A while ago, I really enjoyed it. It's smut, like it's paper porn. There's no secret about it. But it also has a fun story around it. I love the writing. It's fast-paced. It's lovable. The characters are fun to follow around, and this whole werewolf situation is just fun. So Nodding Autumn, I got like the pre-release special, so I decided to read that as well. It's the 3rd book in the series, but you do not have to read them in order. So they are all standing on their own. At least between book 1 and 3, there was no character overlap as far as I was able to see. It's just the same werewolves type of situation. It's a white shoes romance, very, very spicy. And Nodding Autumn in this case is a MFMM, I believe, is what the order is. It gets a bit chaotic. This one is about Autumn, who works in her store, doesn't think about anything evil, and then the dude comes in, touches her, and all of a sudden, fated mates, and chaos ensues, and her life kind of falls apart, because turns out he has an evil twin that is trying to kidnap her, and then there's a lot more stuff that happens, so if you're interested in it, I will not spoil it. You're welcome to read it, but there are a lot of things that make this whole situation even more complicated. As part of that, same good writing, same entertainment level, same fast-paced thing. The only thing that I have to complain about this one is the ending was resolved way too fast. Like, there was this whole build-up with that evil twin and, we have to flee from him, we have to confront him, etc., etc. And then the resolving is one guy saying one sentence and then literally it's done. And I'm like, what? But I still had a lot of fun reading the book. Again, engaging story. I will definitely read book 2. And then there's another book already coming out in November this year, which is then the 4th book and the final book in that quartet. And then I started one more book. I haven't finished it in July, but I started it in July. And that was Shauna McGuire's Rosemary and Rue, which is book 1 in the October Day series. And I am so excited to be reading this right now. This is also one of the Hugo books. Also not one that you guys picked. I'm going completely rogue here, but it's one that I wanted to read for a while now already. So this is an urban fantasy about October Day, who is kind of a halfling fae, I believe, if I remember that. There's a lot of different fantasy races in here. I'm still at the very beginning, so I'm still a little bit confused with what it all is, but she is half human, half whatever, something else, fae or whatever. That's all I know at this point. So don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you want to hear more about this book then in my August wrap-up, because that's when I will obviously talk more about this one. Alrighty, last question that I have for you is, what was your favorite book in the month of July? Let me know down in the comments. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button while you're at it. Don't forget to hype all the stuff that you can do nowadays on YouTube. And then I hope I'll see you soon with my next video. Till then, have an amazing rest of your day. Bye!